like going to church.
So, welcome to the January 15th CPA meeting that we're starting, 6:30 exactly. Yes, James turned on. Did everybody get the materials for this month? Minutes from last month, comments, questions, changes? No?
No.
Good? Okay.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Seconds.
Thank you. Everybody okay? Great. So what Jamie's working on right now is we have to approve this year's budget. So yeah, we have to approve it for next month. But so that's what.
Was that a year ago?
Time flies. Yeah, so he's giving us a draft because
So we can
our
see.
yeah, so we will approve it for next.
So I know that's when Melissa wanted me, I think someone like the 16th or 19th or something.
Yep. Yep. So we have 3 proposals, 2 of which are old. The soccer proposal from Parks and Rec, the PCT proposal for the accessible trail, and then a new proposal from Arch Street. So hopefully everybody's reviewed those. I think I'd like to start with PCT, if everybody's okay with that. I know that we'll have the soccer field on first. But, so as a refresh, we have an updated budget from PCT because the old one included estimates around wages that they didn't need to do. And I don't know if anything was actually technically taken out, but the new budget's lower. Sorry, I did it. I think they're asking for 235, if my memory's right, but it may not be. 185. Thank you. All right, so 185, the total project is 253. Still the same categories. So it's sort of a substantial drop from what they're asking for CPA. We had questions last time around landscaping costs, parking questions that I think we discussed and everybody was okay with. I don't think there are any other big questions. Jamie, am I missing anything big?
Look at the minutes.
Where the parking area is going to be and how it was shielded from neighbors.
Can we have a chance to look at this in comparison to the prior? I didn't actually.
I did a little, try to put the difference in figures. And just took the old one and put the new figures in extra. I mean, I was doing it fast.
What'd you see, or would you?
Well, I mean, I think it's.
Constructive?
Yeah, I think it's mostly under items that look like it's not so much materials, but labor, they all, but I didn't figure like percentages if they're all going on the same percentage. It's about, went from, considerably down from what they were asking for last time.
So just the parking
I
area?
think they were looking for
Expensive
260, it's
trees.
like 75,000 left.
I think the expensive trees are gone.
They are. The whole landscaping cost for the parking area dropped to 4,500 instead of whatever it was before. So like the original cost for improvements for the parking area were 73,900 and now they're 64. No, 70 if you include the overhead.
I think it's a good project.
Yeah.
I don't know what we want to do as far as discussion. I know people in the room are here, but.
Well, I guess I'll just open it up to further questions from the committee because we have
I don't know.
Right here.
I guess I had a few questions,
Okay.
as always,
Yes.
mainly around the finances. I don't know who came up with the new figures. I don't know, Mr. Cannon's not here, so I don't know if it was him. But I noticed some of the, like in the visitors parking area, a lot of the items dropped, but like something like, placing and spreading compact gravel didn't drop, yet placing and spreading compact fill did drop. So I was wondering why, in other words, if there's labor with both, why, or that figure didn't drop, or installing the driveway apron, installing the timber guardrails did drop. Did not drop. That was $45.50, and there was no drop there, and I assume if you're installing it, there's labor costs there. That should be less. I guess I don't know, that was my question. In other words, a lot of the items dropped where there was labor involved, but some didn't, and I guess if there's an explanation why some did and some didn't.
It's by linear foot.
Why did you know?
But it's still labor.
I'm sorry, Bill couldn't make it here tonight, Bill Cannon. I didn't redo the budget with him, so I really can't answer that. But I guess my understanding is that if you gave us the amount that we asked for, and it came out to be less, then we would ask for less because you're paying on the invoices that come in, is my understanding, so.
Oh, sorry. So Dan's question was that if we removed the prevailing wage, so that's what we thought,
Which
that
we
sort of
did, I
artificially
believe.
inflated the budget last time was.
Right.
Right. So his question is that some of these items, like if you're looking item by item,
Right.
that some of the ones that do require labor, their price didn't change from the old budget to the new budget, and he's just wondering why.
I
because
just
it-
don't have a good
Okay.
answer for you, I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
It's a lot of places quote by the foot. I mean, if you get your floors done or something like that, they just say so much per foot, and that's how you floor it.
So, well, we're talking about.
Well, let me ask you then, what's the difference between just, here's number 5, and number 6? Those say place and spread. The one is so many cubic feet. The one that's 2,500 didn't go down, stayed the same. The one that was 7,500 went down to 5,500.
Because they cut the unit price from 15 to 750. If you look at the unit prices,
So that's on
the
the,
6 is $15 per, it's probably per square foot, and the 12-inch compact is $750, so that's why.
So it could be that the material estimates, they
Moved down.
got better costs from some.
yeah,
other
that was where I just,
Yeah.
kind of what I wanted to ask, those type of things, ask Mr. Taylor. And then my other question I had was on the total project. And again, it's kind of hard to read this, and I know he did it, so it's kind of hard to ask these questions, but on the, I guess it'd be the third page, there's the $33,345 for repair of the East Street culvert.
Right.
That seems like it's not in these figures, because it's, I assume it's coming out of the grant that you already got, the
I
$47,000.
believe it's actually included in the total.
It says here, not included in this cost estimate.
There are 2 culverts.
No, no, this is
Right, he's
East
talking
Street
about this.
repair, under contract, Pioneer Landscape,
No, that's not the East Street one, that's the
East Green.
East Green.
East Green Street.
Yep.
Yes.
Right, under contract, Pioneer Landscaping, cost per project, not including in this cost estimate, $33,000. So-
I don't think you're looking at the latest one we sent in.
Okay.
The latest one is included.
Okay, so
That's
why,
the old.
I guess that's my question, in other words, why was it included in,
Because we're paying for that with a DCR grant that we got. So we felt like it wasn't right to include that in the total project cost that we are submitting a request to you for.
well, I guess, how did it change from the first figures though? I mean, how were we paying for it in the first figure?
I don't think it was.
I mean, you were paying for it the first out of the
I'm sorry.
grant too.
I don't think it was in there the first time.
No, it was excluded the first time.
I have the original from the
Right.
first time, it's definitely in there the first. I mean, it says it's not, the
It's-
figure isn't included.
Right, if you
It
go
just
down
shows
to the bottom, value of DCR grant, so it's included, but it's subtracted also.
Right.
So
it's not in the cost estimate, I understand that. Right. It's not in the total estimate, like your old one
it
was
is.
204.
It is, but then it's subtracted out
Oh,
with the
okay.
value of the DCR grant, which is 47,000, which will pay for that plus some additional things.
And what is the use of the, everything's spelled out now at the 86,000. You know, that you're asking for 185,000.
Right.
And it's spelled out under, what is the use of like the 14, being just under 14, 13 something that you still have from the grant? If you use 33, you have 47. Is there a use?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's uses, I just didn't know what.
We'll have no problem spending.
No, I realize, I just didn't know what you're gonna spend it
Well,
on.
we have plans for butterfly gardens in a couple of spots along the trail, and so it'll be that, possibly additional benches. So, you know, we did our best to put this estimate
Signs.
together, given what we
No,
know
I
at this
know
point.
things. And then, I guess my other question is, and I'm not 100% sure how this figures, is back in the original proposal, and I didn't bring the copy of the new one, so I'm not sure. Under the, there's 30,000 of in-kind. Hang on 1 second. Seems like funny, so I can direct everybody to what I'm talking about. There's 30,000, it mentions 30,000 of in-kind.
This one design fee.
Is that what you're thinking of?
Yes, the 30,000, well, yeah, it says it here, I guess this is my, if I can find it, if you just hang on one more second. That's what I'm talking about, that's it.
The design fees.
Yeah, they mentioned heritage and, oh, right here, right, it's on page 2 of the original. It says, please note all systematic design work performed is provided as donation in kind. And it comes out to 30,700, which is the same as there. Does that mean they're not getting paid that?
That means that Bill
They're donating
Cannon
that?
donated his services.
Okay, so he's
for
not
that.
taking any, because then
Right.
it says, I
We
guess.
will be paying him beyond the planning stages. So once we get funded and the project actually gets going, he's going to be overseeing it and working with the contractors, and so we will be paying him for that portion of
And
it.
that's what the hourly rate that's listed below that is for, work
Right.
in addition to, but he's donated that.
Right, and there's other people who have donated time as well.
Mm-hmm.
Board members have put in a lot of time, and for the DCR grant that we got, we need to do some, it's a 20% match that we have to do, and the way that grant works is we can value our volunteer time and work that into the match part of it. So I think just, you know, like the time that I spend writing the proposal, they value that at, I think, 27 an hour or something, which I wish I could get, but I can't. So that's where that comes from.
And then my final question, I'll turn it over to anyone else who has them, is the culvert at, and I know it's confusing, East Green Street, that's being done is like 30,000.
Yes.
Yet on the East Street culvert, it looks like you're only, like, got like 5,600, and I just.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a much smaller
That's
project.
what I didn't know, I went out to the site, I went both to East Green Street and out there,
And-
but I didn't know, I don't know, and that's
Yeah.
what I was saying, that I'm hoping this isn't like a cost overrun.
No, no.
No.
And
So
and the
you gotta
East,
figure it's a much smaller.
the East Green Street culvert is the most important. That's gonna be the access
Right,
for
where a
the,
lot of people are
for,
gonna walk.
well, not only people, but
But-
for vehicle maintenance.
The mowers.
Mower, and sometimes you have to go in there with a pickup truck or something, brush and all this stuff to pick it up. It's a lot of things.
Might have to dress with some additional crushed stone or something like that. So the East Street culvert, it's a smaller intermittent stream there,
So that's,
and that's, yeah.
that was what I was just wondering what the cost difference was. So-
Yeah, we certainly, when we started this, we certainly didn't anticipate we were gonna have to spend almost 35,000 for that East Green Street culvert. You know, we were figuring around 15,000, but
There's a lot of extra piping involved there that they had to take out, to reseal everything, and then put boulders in there and refill the roadway itself that washed out. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Not quite the Hoover Dam, but more than we expected.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that, and I don't know if anybody else has anything.
How are you guys doing on your fundraising?
I'm sorry?
How are you doing on your fundraising?
We really haven't cranked up our fundraising effort yet, so we've been kind of holding back to see how this funding goes, and it's not that we're going to scrap the project, but I think we're kind of waiting until we get funding approved, and then we'll raise it. I don't know if you were around in 2006, 2007, when we protected Echodale Farm. The trust raised $300,000 from something like 500 donors, and that was a land protection project, and there were probably some people that were opposed to it because they favored developing the property, whereas in this case, I think that it's going to be, I don't know, it's a real feel-good project, and that there's a lot of the community that will be positively impacted by it, and so I don't think fundraising is going to be as difficult in some ways.
Great. That on the table? No, you can ask questions.
Come on, Ed, you can bring it on. We can take it.
You all set with the landscaping now? We did bring that down.
No, and
Looks better for you.
Much better.
I just want to say that we do appreciate your close scrutiny of how the public monies are spent. That's, it's important that you're doing your job, and we sharpened our pencils, as you noticed, and brought our costs down, and so we do appreciate that.
We also know that it's going to go to the finance committee, which Dan sits on after us, so
Right, we're not done
they're
yet.
more difficult than we are.
Right, and I will say that, and I'm sure I'll see Bill before that, but, I'm hoping at that point, maybe we'll have,
Yeah, we'll be able to clarify those questions,
just
hopefully in
again,
advance.
what I worry about is you get into these projects, and we saw it with the promenade, and, again, there's another agenda item that, there's always seems to be overruns, and I just don't want the CPA, I think, I'm of the thing is, this is what you want, in my mind, this is what you get, so, I just want to make sure the projects, and I'm sure, you guys have done projects, so I have no, I have a lot of faith that you'll do it, and I'm just,
Right.
but we like that and make sure that, that before the city invests the money.
We've made our best effort to put together the best estimate we could. It's not a project that we've done before, so we've just looked at other projects and we've done our best, and hopefully we've come out pretty close to what it'll be.
If you were to cut anything, and again, I'm not a particular, I walk in the woods at times, I don't particularly go on a lot of trails. And this one seems a little different from most of your other trails, if I understand them, is you have the pavilion, I'll call it a pavilion, I don't know if that's the proper, the shelter and picnic tables. Is that something that you have in a lot of your...
We've talked about the picnic tables from the start, since we've been discussing this. The shelter came a little bit later, and it just seemed like it might be nice to have a spot along the trail in case weather gets inclement and people need to take shelter there or get out of the sun for a while and still have a nice view of the area. So I guess that could be cut out and built at some point in the future, but ideally we'd like to include that.
Oh, no, I think it's not a bad amenity. I guess maybe I would think a little bit, you mentioned last time about it also might draw. I think you gotta be careful, if it draws people and they're just gonna use the pavilion, or not necessarily the trails, they're using it as a hangout or something, but.
Yeah, that's always an issue with
You
all
don't
of
know,
our
and it's one of
properties.
those you don't know until you.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Any other? So we are thinking of voting on this next month. Depends on what you want to vote on this month too. It really depends on the committee.
Well, if we can't fund it for this one, I had no problem supporting it.
You say we can't vote on it until next month?
No, we can. But our funding cycle is that we don't make decisions.
Okay.
But you guys aren't like in a super rush.
No, we would like to start construction as early as possible this spring, but we're not ready to do something next week.
Okay.
It wouldn't make a difference anyway.
Right.
We just carry it over.
Yeah.
Now, if
Okay.
anyone has questions, I mean, I don't think I'm gonna have any more questions.
Okay. Just in case. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I do think it's a very worthwhile project.
The second continued proposal is Parks and Rec, soccer. No. Talk amongst yourselves.
The most recent.
Yeah. I left and I didn't think if there were questions. I don't know if you guys even had questions.
Well, it was only Chief Motter who.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nobody here.
When Mr. Mason couldn't make it, and Chief Motter said Chief Mason could,
Chief Mason.
Director Mason.
Oh.
Couldn't answer.
Said that he couldn't come to this one. So I don't have a problem with it. I know we vetted it a little before. I guess I just, to me, if somebody's asking for a couple
I mean,
$100,000.
that's 2 meetings in a row, nobody's here.
If somebody's asking for a couple $100,000, do you think they would be able to come? Certainly, I know finance, we passed it, I know finance is going to have to get some info.
Right. I know Jamie invited Chief Motter to this meeting.
And John Mason, but he had a,
I knew he had a commitment.
he had,
He's in New Hampshire for this.
I don't know what the commitment is, but he had something that's been going for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew last meeting he couldn't make it.
So this meeting, he's in New Hampshire today, and he's looking at a possible replacement for where he's living right now, or basically.
Is this another one we can't fund till next month anyway, or is this?
Yeah,
something-
this is, I mean, because it's part of the December to February cycle.
I guess I would be, hopefully,
I'll make sure somebody.
and hopefully he can come. Again, I don't think, I know I have very few, if any, questions about it, but I think it would be nice if we just kind of get a little scope of it. Make sure
Yeah.
he's for it too, I'd like to see some.
Yeah.
I know he is for it, but I'm just.
I'd like to see, a room full of soccer moms here saying we gotta have this, but.
So is there anything that you guys want me to forward to him, questions, other than just to make sure that he's here?
No, I just think, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I think the obvious questions always come up of participation. I know it's used by high school, JV, I think we asked some of that.
Yeah.
But what the figures are, if he has any figures, of how many people are in the rec leagues, and if there's adult leagues, and just what the community, that's what I'd be most interested in, is what the community, participation level is for the soccer. I know I've been down there a few weekends and it's mobbed, so I'm sure it's gonna be a very high.
Yeah, those fields are getting.
Right, they get a lot of use to it.
Everybody likes
I guess
it.
those numbers would be good to have. I guess that's all I would ask.
And I can say for the Park and Rec, just speaking from the fact that with the new thing going on out here, that anything we can do to make maintenance easier for the Park and Rec would be a good thing.
Because they're gonna have to deal with the boardwalk.
Boardwalk, we're gonna have to take care of the boardwalk, so we add it to our plate, so
Are they gonna hire a couple more guys?
I don't believe so. I don't believe they're being hired.
Don't you guys take care of the boat ramp also?
I'm not sure, probably.
I'm pretty sure
Hey, at
that
least you
was
don't have the
covered.
bike trail, hey?
They tried to get us to the.
Highway department's good.
I know that's a
Just-
past project, but he said he didn't need more help for the promenade. I mean, that was part
That
of
is true.
that was part of the vetting. He was
I
very- he was
thought we
very,
could get something done, but still anything we can do with the,
You knew it.
All right, so Jamie, does that make sense to you?
I'll relay them that you guys want some specifics on numbers and that you
would like to see.
politely requested his presence at the
Very
December
solid.
meeting.
All right, so we're gonna push that one off to next one. So the new proposal is not necessarily new. In the organization is not new to us. So our street development, who's doing 15 Cottage, we gave $200,000 to 2 years ago. Lord help me if I can't remember. Has come back with $150,000 additional request.
says 2,000 boxes.
Thank you. Because of unforeseen, not surprising costs related to dealing with an old building. So they basically have a $350,000 shortfall in their budget. They're looking for $150,000 from us. They're gonna get additional 50 in historic tax credits, an additional 50 in energy incentives and rebates, and an additional 100 in a brownfields tax credit. So there are a couple of, are you here from our?
I am,
Thank
yes,
you.
Rich Relic.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
So there were a couple of questions that I know the city planner had, but I think, Jim, you sent it to everybody, right?
No,
Just me. Okay,
And
so one of the issues that we collectively, the city needs to have resolved is that the pedestrian access bridge that's gonna go from the building to Cottage Street, they needed a right-of-way easement.
The bridge on one end is on city property, and in order for that to occur, there needs to be legal document, easement that says that they have the right to
Do that.
build on city property and whatever else the lawyers want into that document.
It's a new connection from the building basically onto Cottage Street,
Right.
via pedestrian bridge.
So the city knew that legal document had not been started, nor does it exist, yet somebody noticed that construction has started already on the pedestrian thing. So that was one thing that Jessica asked that we clarify with you.
Sure, and we do have an attorney working on it. I talked to Jessica and actually Jim Gracia way back when about that. He's a title attorney, so he has all the information he needs to do it. It's just, it was December, and he, just with year-end closings, he got backed up, and it kind of went by the wayside. But I did talk to him today, and he's going to jump back on it. This should be pretty quick. If he can't do it quickly for some reason, then I'll have somebody else do it.
Okay, great, thank you.
I just know from past things that that's something that has to pass the whole city council.
So that was
Give it
Jess's
easement.
question, right?
I mean, we deal with easements.
I mean, typically, any legal document gets vetted through the city
As
council.
I said, the city attorney has to write up
The city council-
an agreement, and
the
the city
attorney will
council
want-
has to approve it, the whole city council, so it has to go to committee, has to go to property.
So that's a couple months.
Oh, at least.
And they're already doing construction in it?
Well, nothing seems to have happened in a little while, but.
I mean, it's a whole process that has to be, I mean, the city solicitor has to get the documents together, and then it has to go to the either goes to property committee, I don't sit on property, goes to property, and then they come back with a recommendation of the whole council, so it's, several meetings.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think it necessarily
Could be
be a problem, it's
too.
just it's a time.
Yeah.
I don't know what the liability is for the city, I guess you'd have to.
People walking right out onto Cottage Street.
Yeah. Do you know what your time, or what the contractor's timeline is in terms of?
No, just that we're waiting. We'll put him on hold to do that. They did some of the, basically just some of the.
They have like the pylons.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, they haven't done anything further. So until we tell them to do it, but I'll have our attorney actually draft document.
Right.
So
I
hopefully that will
mean,
come
he should
together.
really talk to either the mayor, I would think, or the city, probably the mayor first, and see if she'll put the city attorney on it. Because they're gonna have to work together to come up with an agreement and easement between the corporation and the cities.
Okay.
When is occupancy scheduled? Do you know?
We're looking at March.
Can you do that without a pedestrian bridge?
Well, actually, that's not an egress for
Okay.
the property. There's other stairwells that were built. That's just basically when we went through the process with the city and just with our architects, they wanted to have that feature, the connection feature, but it's not a required egress for the property.
March. That's fast. Okay. So we already gave them 200. They're asking for an additional 150. The other thing, Jamie, was the time issues: 30
Yeah,
versus 50
so
versus 99.
Rich responded to me in an email, and in the letter that he wrote, it says 30 years affordable housing restriction, and that's incorrect. The housing restriction is a 99-year restriction for the state, and the city has a separate 50-year restriction.
It's on top of the 99. or
It's not
below?
150, it's
Yeah.
50, and then the city with whoever the property owners at the time have an option to, if they don't pay it back, then it gets continued. But after that 50 years, they can purchase the city's restriction, but they would still have 49 years left of restriction
Right, on the
for the
state.
state.
Yeah, the state overrides this recorded deed restriction for 99 years. So that is incorrect. That's basically the tax credit compliance period.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get a formal paperwork from them, or are they just
There was a letter.
I saw the letter.
Yeah.
I mean, Jamie put the letter up. There's no breakdown.
No breakdown of the changes. I got one question. Are you done?
For right now, yes. Go.
That's 2 questions.
Sorry, you used up. Go on, go.
Is I noticed that there's a line for reserves, fees, and overhead.
Yep.
Okay, $1,876,000. How much of that reserve's left?
Well, there's different reserves. There's an operating reserve
I want
that,
to know what the total reserve was.
the total contingency reserve, or just the,
Total reserve. You got reserves in there, what are they? In reserves, fees, and overheads, the entire account, how much of that $1,876,000 has not yet been expended?
well, the reserve in that is an operating reserve. The construction contingency is a different line item. That's at the top.
Okay, let me
I'm-
repeat the question. Of the $1,876,000 in the line reserves, fees, and overhead, how much of that has been committed? How much of it is spent, and how much of it remains?
Well, 225 is a reserve, that can't be touched, so that remains. Then the overhead and fees is roughly half of that is remaining out of that piece.
Okay. $1,876,000 in the line item. How much of it remains?
$1 million?
Okay. Why do you need 349,000 more?
Well, basically the overage is on the construction side. So the fees and the overhead, they will come out of some of that. Basically, if we can't raise additional capital, it'll come out of overhead and fees and that sort of thing.
All right. Where is the margin on this?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Is each of these line items, okay, has fees, labor, and margin. There's a markup on every line item that's in here, okay? This spreadsheet says what the budget is. It does not say what the expenditures are, okay? And I can't believe you'd come and ask for more money without telling us how much you've already spent.
Well, this is a snapshot of
That's it.
of the whole project, basically as it's going to be. Basically, these are all the sources, and as it's going to be done in the next couple of months. So all the sources at that point are going to be expended. But that being said, there's additional funds that we've come across that we have to fund, basically on top of that.
I won't support this unless you tell me where the money's been spent already, and how much of it isn't spent out of that budget, and what's actually overrun.
We can certainly do that, but this basically is the snapshot of everything that's going to be spent. Remaining to be spent, like construction, I can show you we're 90% complete, so we have 10% left on the construction contract. We have, still 10% left on the architect's bill, but that I'm showing it in here as 100% complete, just to show the whole number.
Spreadsheet, red and black, red and black, red and black by account.
Okay, I can do that. I do that every month for the state agency, the HCD. I just wanted to do a summary. I thought it would be easier, but I can certainly do that.
And it better be zero, or don't ask for no more money.
Okay. What's caused the overrun? I know I've read in the paper, there's been problems with some of the subcontractors, and again, that's just what I read in there. And
Yeah.
Is it something that's been done by the subs? Is it something done by the corporation? Is it?
It's really related to those are really two different items. The construction, I'll take a step back. On the building, before we started the project, we spent a lot of money with engineers, architects, environmental consultants. They basically gave us a budget to work with. Once we get in there, we start the construction. There are things that we didn't see or they didn't come across that are overages. I can certainly go through the list. Some of them one of them has been the change in the building code. In that building, we've had to go around the entire exterior of the interior of that building, all the buildings, and put up LVLs, which basically adds seismic stability to it. That was a big cost that wasn't in our initial budget. Things such as additional masonry that we didn't know. Once we took down things, we saw that the back wall was gone. That had to be rebuilt. The soil, when we took down the CMU building in the back, that came down, the soil had to be excavated and taken away. There was more of that than the engineers projected. There's soft costs that go with that, and consulting fees for that work. So it's been a combination of a lot of things. I mean, it's a $20 million project. When we set the budget in advance, we try to ask for the least amount of sources that we need to do the project. So that's, at this point, we did have a substantial contingency in there, but with those extra items, we bumped up over it, and that's why we're coming up short on compared to the original budget.
And then my other question is, and I was a supporter of this project, but you guys got money obviously for the city, a lot of state grants, a lot of tax credits. I guess why should the city of East Hampton give you more money when I've read and looked a little into our street development of Boston? And there's investors, there's people investing this that are making money. It's not like you're a nonprofit group. There's people making money. Why shouldn't the investors take the 150?
Should come out of margin.
I mean, to me, if it doesn't come out of margin, maybe the
It should
investors
come out of
got
reserve.
to,
If it
maybe
doesn't
the
come out of
investors
margin,
got to
it should
step
go
back and put more money in, or get less money from the project.
I agree.
I don't see why the city should put more. That's just my.
Well, the investors have put in, there's basically a $19 million project. The investors have put in the bulk of that. There's a permanent loan of $945,000. There's, some soft loans that are in there of a few $1 million. The bulk of that money has come from investors.
But investors don't put money in without getting money back, but that's what you call an investor.
Right.
You didn't say a philanthropist.
Tax credit.
You didn't say a philanthropist came forward with the money. You said investors came forward.
Sure.
My few little mutual funds I own, I invest in them. I don't intend to. I intend to hopefully make something when I put my money in an investment. So I guess that's where I'm a little skeptical.
Well, the investors in the tax credit projects for affordable housing projects, there's a variety. They do it for a variety of reasons, not necessarily for the yield like a standard investor would, but for the community investment of it, the CRA credit, banks, GE puts their money in. They
Also look at the master plan, specifically the economic development chapter, and the local works survey that was done almost 2 years ago now. As we're looking for what direction the EDIC should go.
Good point.
Can outline this and
And we should also have a link to the master plan. And if not, it is on the city's website.
really appreciate it.
Thank
you.
We've heard of master plan,
You
but
work at the office.
Yeah.
as the chairperson of that, and I was on that economic development committee, I hate to say this, but we were outdated as soon as we were done. And,
Sure, but
we have, it is a basis,
So it
but
sounds like
what I'm
it's
getting at
very
is,
cold.
Well,
the challenges are immediate, and we have to start thinking differently. No, I'll just say
Not
one
less
thing
than
quickly.
Nor more than.
You don't want to be fighting the last battle. I did not serve in the military, but when you see that term a lot.
well, then you can
And
do
a
it.
lot of people were afraid of big
Okay, they can
boxes,
go.
but in all
How does
honesty,
it
big
go about
boxes are a
this?
non-issue.
Now, that's what we have is
Look at Amazon taking over the college bookstore at UMass. Well, where is Amazon? It's in the
Right,
cloud.
but
Yeah.
how do we
I
change
mean,
the numbers?
so,
after-
all I'm just saying
because
is,
this is the first time they've had a
Well, I
problem.
think
I don't
that's
care about
up to you,
Amazon,
because
but
I
we
know
have
how
to
do
be
we
thinking
say,
innovatively,
yes,
because time
this
is
is
just
good,
moving so
here's
fast.
10 now,
Right.
which falls within
I don't
5 and
expect this,
15.
I put
How do
20
we
things on
just-
here, and I don't
have
expect
them-
one or two,
have
to be
them
honest
vote?
with you.
Just
If
have
you do
that
one or
be
two
a
well,
policy.
Or they request it to me
it
and
can
I
be
approve
relevant.
that.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
but if you
And
think
nothing's on a
under local
policy.
control,
No,
things are not.
I mean, I think
Just an approval of a request.
Right, because
Okay.
that tells you how
From
many
our
you can
region,
have, and I think it's up to each.
Just drive by a closed
Perfect.
Home Depot
Thanks,
and a
Barb.
closed Walmart.
Yes.
So,
Lowe's is desperately trying to get out of the habit. They're desperately, it was one of the biggest mistakes they made, you know.
We just gotta go shop there, you know that right, Alfred, it's like more employees in our work.
so to your
Well,
point.
usually when it comes in, we'll
I
check,
mean,
we'll stamp it.
You know, it's
and
ironic,
send
200
everything
miles
else.
north near the
So it's
Canadian
not
border
like
in
we're
Vermont,
gonna say.
they drive
usually
45
comes in
minutes
with
to
a
get to a
person,
Walmart.
we send the
I say to
person
my
else.
mother-in-law, I can
So
leave my
we
house
don't
and in
take
20
the
minutes I can beat
just
5
have
of them.
Right.
How can they support it? How do they sustain that in the long run? I don't know. Obviously,
I'll probably
it's not a
send it
business
down to
model, it really
her
works for the long term.
Let them
But
come upstairs. and
You're right, the big boxes is
say,
fighting over
if
that.
it comes in
Yeah.
the door.
Well, and even
we
downtown
send to
Northampton,
financial
take a look at downtown
Because I don't want to,
Northampton.
I don't want to be like in the middle of.
I put a 10-cent
Jenna
Because I
told
heard,
that
I thought I heard
Verizon
it was
was
an
gonna take over that
LLC.
store.
Should
Just
be
a thought.
LLC.
And Iris Photo across the street is going.
individual.
And on Main Street, you have
That's what
Dunkin'
they were
Donuts
saying.
and Subway, which if 10 years ago you
I don't
asked
know. I
us
don't wanna
local
be-
people if
I
we
don't-
thought Subway or Dunkin' Donuts would be on Main Street, I think I would have said no, none of 10 about 10 cents about that. I'd say no, they're not gonna be there. Well, they're there now.
Check is wrong.
So,
we
I
don't-
think Dave is right.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
I would
box
probably just
piece
send it
and some of
downstairs.
those things that were so important 10, 15, 20 years ago, they're not
Yeah,
important
you
now.
go talk to her
The
about
other
it.
thing that I was thinking about is, you know, we have a new governor, and I'm not saying got her good, but it's a new administration, but we have a big budget deficit, and like, you know, the city had done well with grants, and it's gonna be very competitive for grants, and you know, the EDIC can help with some of that stuff, but, you know, Jessica and Jamie are gonna be digging harder, because every other city's gonna be digging harder.
That's right.
You know,
Dave, I have one quick question.
Yeah.
Sorry. What's 130 Cottage Street?
well, 130 Cottage Street is, for the locals, the old Topolis cabinet place,
Oh.
Luigi's. And, I have the crazy idea of the city buying that, tearing it down and putting parking in a little park there.
Was that Dr. Roy's spot too, the corner?
The
Yeah.
whole corner.
Well,
What
it's
else is
just-
there now? I'm still trying to...
It's vacant.
But what's next?
Well, there's Nini's, the road.
It's separated by that little street between Nini's and, you know, if you go to Nini's and take that immediate right.
So this is the corner, the whole
Yes,
corner
that's
building.
when-
Oh,
It's on the corner of
where the entertainment place used to be.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, Luigi.
Where you used to place your bets when you were a kid.
And I know-
I've had a lot of good times here.
Okay. Well, I
Yes,
know-
you know, these are good discussions.
Well, yeah, I know full well
No,
the city climate and budgets, and there has to be a will in order to get the way. But it's just, you know, Cottage Street, we have an arts district, which we might lose in a year or two, because, you know, it wasn't set in stone that we're gonna have it forever. We have to keep, you know, we have a, you know, city arts obviously is doing a hell of a job, but we have to keep adding our piece to that puzzle. And how many things can you do? I don't know. But there might be, you know, if you said, well, we added 10 spots because of this success, they'll say, oh, you're doing a good job, and blah, blah, blah.
And under the heading of a good problem to have, try to find a parking space in the current municipal lot on a Friday or Saturday. That's right. You won't find one.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well,
Just for the record, we'd like to make more cultural districts in East Hampton.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is good fodder for us. I think we have our work cut out for us. The only other thing on new business is the reestablishment of local works. I'm taking that back off.
I was gonna ask the question, why?
Why am I taking it off, or why?
No,
do we have
why
it on?
would we even talk about it?
Well, just because there were a couple people who would be involved in that aren't involved in this.
Oh, okay.
And I wanted to encourage involvement, but I think a different tack is to make this be an entity that people want to be part of. And
we
Local
can,
Works
and
was...
we can do that right in our
I think
group.
we can.
I agree with that. yeah.
And Local Works was suffering a little bit from the same thing that EDIC had been suffering from, just on a smaller scale. You know, we spent a fair amount of time talking and not accomplishing a lot. And so it was a valiant effort. I'm proud of part of it, but I think, you know, we'll always have it in our pocket because it'll always be a subdivision of this. And if we ever need to, you know, people can go off and do Local Works things. But I'm taking off of the new business. And this is the first time we have not run out of time. Does anyone have any?
Just one other interesting thought, when we talked about stuff we've done in the past and sort of re-energizing some of that. And we did it with Walter. If you recall, when Walter Kudnowski was here for the revision process, part of that, there was an interesting exercise he did with us. We started up by the Rotary and ended up down by Nini's. And we stopped at every single building, or every single lot, or every single whatever, from Main, Union, and Cottage. And you could only say something good about the property you were looking at.
Interesting.
And it was an interesting process, and I just wonder if it's something we could do on our own, even without, so you basically, you could take the ugliest looking building on Cottage Street, or the ugliest looking building on Union Street, and you had to say something positive about it. Great location, good parking, high visibility. Even though the building looked like it was about to fall down,
That gray and skirt.
You found the
Good
positive.
Available area.
Good parking lot.
You found the positives on it, and I just thought it was an interesting exercise.
That's a good idea.
We could do that in the summer.
Yeah.
But see,
We always ended up at the press
came
cap.
on and enjoyed those kind of activities that sustain the knowledge and the growth of the members of the EIDC. Not activities like the chamber that are social and offer hospitality type things. Not that I think there's anything wrong with those, I enjoy those, but that's not where I see DIC working. I mean, it's more on that kind of getting very knowledgeable. So when we do go to support and write a letter regarding something of importance in the city, it's backed by substantial knowledge of the city.
And that process ended up in a big public forum at the old high school, old East Hampton High School gym, and we packed that gym.
We always ended up at Amy's place.
Okay, so I would just like to thank everybody, you know, the new members. This is exactly what, you know, if I was crossing my fingers, what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for some energized excitement. And I think, you know, again, forming partnerships with the chamber and having Mo here and in different representations. Like, to me, what I see the EDIC is, you know, like, obviously, we don't have an economic developer position in East Hampton. We have Jessica, which is our city planner, and, you know, she runs many areas. So to me, this is exactly what it is, economic development, by working with the community and seeing, and this is great, these lists of needs and the list of concerns, so that if we can get going on all these future plans and just different things that we want to do, you know, kind of like you said it, be proactive instead of just when something comes your way, but actually instituting it and getting going. So this is exactly what I was hoping to get, this type of excitement and this type of participation. And I thank you all, because I know you volunteer in your time. So if we could, you know, have different staffing, a lot of times you have people that do all these, unfortunately, in our community, and fortunately, it becomes volunteers that we can't survive without you. So I thank you for your time, and I hope that, you know, this is a really great meeting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thanks, everyone.
One other thought, Josh, on the proactive side of this, just came to mind because I noticed Dave had on here about discussions of potentially a new K-8 school. You know, that may happen in the next 5 years. I don't know, I'm just taking a wild ass guess. Well, that leaves 3 vacant schools in the downtown for potential development, potential parking, potential what have you. There's still
in good areas.
Yeah, great areas,
yeah.
right in downtown.
Right.
We still have, I'm not trying to do a commercial here, but we still have a vacant church on Pleasant Street. That's a very attractive property. I know it might be more attractive if the church wasn't on it, but a lot of open space there. You know, those things are things that are going to impact the business district, potentially from the mills all the way to Cottage Street. You know, Maple Street School, Center School, Putnam School, those are things that, you know, as soon as they put a shovel in the ground, long before they put a shovel in the ground for a new school, we should be coming up with some proposals and recommendations about what we'd like to see happen. So we're not waiting for the planning board to come forward and say, someone wants to put 50 apartments in Maple Street School, what do you all think? We come back with, we'd love to see 50 apartments in Maple Street School.
And before it's disposed of, you know, before
Right.
it's like when it
Before
gets to the point where it's surplus, and then I get recommendations. So I can tell you that I have a meeting in March with the Mass School Building Authority on just that exact project.
The
So-
statement of interest is coming for that, right?
No, we don't even need it, because ours are already, we've already submitted them. And the really exciting part about this, and the first thing we did mention is, could we go, because obviously they're not ever interested in White Brook, because it's it's not old enough, but it's a huge problem for us.
Right.
You know, something that sucks up more than 25% of our entire energy in our buildings is difficult to manage, and it's not even fully utilized. So the superintendent and myself at the different meetings with MSBA had asked, even though you're looking at our grammar schools, which are K-4, could we, if approved, apply for a K-8? And she basically said, you can really pretty much apply for anything you want, but I'll put in that in the notes. So our meeting is March 20, I don't know, whatever, 25th, 24th, but we don't have to do anything other than go and see from, but I think the most exciting thing was out of 100%, 90% are declined. So we made it to the 10%. And I think the reason we made it to the 10% was because our schools, the buildings that they're looking at are over 100 years old, but they could not have been more impressed with the way, you know, when we did the tours, like especially Maple Street, I mean, not especially, but starting at Maple, how we utilized every inch of it. Whether there's a closet, what's in the closet. It's not closet stuff, it's utilized for every purpose there is. So, but that's an excellent idea, instead of waiting till, okay, great, now we have a new school and we need to surplus these buildings. Ahead of time, what would you like in there?
Right.
You know,
Well, they
getting the
were
word
impressed.
out.
They were impressed with what we did with the high school as opposed to the old school, and we kind of led them through the process and some of that stuff because they weren't listening to begin with. So, yeah.
And one of the thoughts that I shared with Karen a while back is that, you know, in and of itself, in a vacuum, another new school on the heels of a high school could again, in a vacuum, could be a hard sell.
Right.
But from an economic, fiduciary responsibility vantage point, getting rid of potentially 4 other buildings and building a brand new state, how could anybody from a financial perspective say you're doing a crazy thing?
Well, you're looking at consolidation, but I'm also looking at $1.8 million that goes out the door every year for choice and charter.
Yeah.
1.8 million.
Yeah.
So that comes right off the top of our budget every year.
And you lose them for good.
Oh, so, and we look at where we lose them, which is our cell, we look at where we lose them. 5th grade, is that a surprise?
Yep.
And 7th grade, is that a surprise?
Right.
So that's where we lose them. And so and the other cell is, we don't have to go to the voters for the schematic design and feasibility study, because we have those funds, because the first time around when it was voted, when you were going to, you know, had 2 schools.
Right.
So those funds, you know, are pretty much there. And also we get the, well, probably 59 to 62% reimbursement from the state, which is what we get. It's, you know, some people get 100%, some people get 90, we don't. They base it on your community, and that doesn't change.
Well, most of them don't get anywhere near that anymore. There are a few, but
Yeah.
very seldom anymore.
So those amounts still have not changed as of yet. So the fact that we don't have to go to the voters just for the schematic design and the feasibility study, I think is huge.
Yeah.
It looks like, look, we've already got this, we're not bothering you, we're only gonna bother you to buy something,
Yeah.
and this is why we wanna buy it.
And this is what it looks like.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, you know, with 3 or 4, forget White Brook, but with 3 empty buildings that, in that proximity to downtown, there's a lot of different options. I mean, housing is one, you know, retail, office, whatever.
Parking.
If I recall, parking. The master plan said housing downtown. Anytime you can bring more housing downtown, it's a benefit. You know, Maple Street School sits right on the edge, you know, in a residential area, but right on the edge of your business district. Great spot for apartments or what have you, Maple Street. Center, drive a bulldozer through it. Union Street needs municipal parking.
There you go, that's perfect.
Yeah, right?
The location is perfect.
Yeah.
So,
Good job.
anyway, those are, you know, like I said, those are ideas to ahead of it, get ahead
Exactly.
of it. You know?
Excellent.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, everyone, thank you very much. Our next meeting is February 17th.
I won't be here. Sorry.
Well, we don't have a quorum.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wanted to tell you that too. So, it looks like, just a little bit of research, that's what I ran to get. The little research I did, it was funny when we were looking at, you know, the setup of VDIC, because it said by law. So we're thinking it meant by laws, which didn't make any sense, but it means by law. So we pulled it out, and the law, and you know, Mass General Law is, such commission shall consist of not less than 5, nor more than 15. So I think what I can do, I'm gonna, I have your request right on my desk, and I think that'll probably just suffice as a formal request. What I think I can do is just get right back to you saying, your request for, you know, exactly how you stated it is hereby approved. And I think it's a good, I don't think I have to do an administrative code, which would mean, you know, it won't need city council approval, because it wasn't a bylaw, it was by Mass General laws.
Excellent.
Yeah, so, but I'm just gonna double check on that, so, yeah, so you're
Then
good.
just go on then.
Let's move it. If they
Okay.
wanted to.
Okay, this
Yes.
meeting is adjourned.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job.